We are taking the deposition of Leonardo DiCaprio. Will the court reporter please swear in the witness? The camera shows the witness being sworn in by the court reporter.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you give me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are ready to begin.
In 1996, a feature-length movie called Don's Plum was made. It starred the so-called Pussy Posse, a circle of celebrity friends including Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, and Kevin Connolly. Considering the star power, Don's Plum seemed destined for success. But shortly after its completion, multiple lawsuits were filed, and DiCaprio and Maguire successfully banned the film's release in America and Canada. For years, the full story of Don's Plum has gone untold. How it destroyed friendships,
I feel so betrayed.
ruined Hollywood careers,
That is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard in my life.
instigated divorces, and even caused a producer to contemplate suicide. Now, the New York Post brings you the truth behind this salacious story.
Was there another title to Don's Plum before Don's Plum became the title? Yeah, I believe there were two different titles.
Okay, what were those?
I believe one was Last Respects.
My home life was something that I felt like I needed to escape. So at 16 years old, I ran away, and I never went back. So I kind of just abruptly thought, F it, I'm gonna go, and I emptied out my bank account, and I landed in LAX on June 4th, 1994. My first memory of Los Angeles was how ugly it was. The sky is orange, and you can just smell the stink of smog and exhaust. A roommate of mine came over one night to go out clubbing and brought with her Jeremy Sisto.
My foot hurts. Can I go to the nurse?
And we hit it off. Like, you know, it was one of those special friendships, like those moments when you like just have that great connection. I'm in Los Angeles probably a week, maybe 2 weeks at the time. And Jeremy Sisto says, yo, let's go to a party. And he picks me up. And we go to this house in the valley, and I open the door, walk in, and the first guy I see is Leonardo DiCaprio. Seeing this Academy Award nominee kind of leaning up against the wall talking about, you know, the scene he just shot in The Quick and the Dead. It was like a really surreal experience hanging out with him and sort of kind of chumming with him a bit. And it turns out that I met most of the guys that I ended up becoming close with. Tobey Maguire, Jay Ferguson, whose house it was, Artie Robb. A lot of the people now known as the Pussy Posse.
What's up, bro?
The so-called Pussy Posse back then was basically the people you see sitting around the table in Don's Plum. And much of Don's Plum is a reflection of kids in their 20s acting like kids in their 20s. Because we kind of moved as a group, I think eventually when the press kind of got a hold of it and coined it as the Pussy Posse, you know, they got the label. But in reality, Leo, Tobey, Scott, Kevin, they're all just the same as anybody else. They were young, they were full of testosterone, they wanted to get laid, and they pursued pretty women. I think the Pussy Posse is just an unfortunate label placed on a bunch of young kids who behaved the way most young 20-year-olds behave. We were a group of close friends. I loved these guys. And I don't mean that in that sort of flippant way. I truly, truly loved these men. I thought they were my friends for life.
As far as this story goes, we're going right now to the center of it. This is where everything converged. Yeah, this was where the so-called Pussy Posse was where everything we did, we started from this spot.
This place is like a time capsule. In 21 years, it hasn't changed, like, at all. I mean, the colors, everything is the same. So my bed was right up against that window. Here's a funny story about this place. So Leo was a kid, you know. He lived with his mom. His fame was building, and he was getting a lot of chicks, but he didn't know where to take them. He couldn't take them home with his mom. So he would show up here, man, in the middle of the night. He'd ring the bell, and Artie'd be sleeping. He's like, what the bro? And there would be Leo right out here at this gate. He'd be like, bro, please, please. He'd open up the door, and in would go Leo with his girl. And Artie would go up and be like, don't load on my bed, bro. and he'd have sex with her while Artie sat on the couch. Both of us had this habit of making up little jingles about our life. And so Artie's little jingle was, "Oh, Leonardo, don't shoot your load, bro." He would be singing while he was upstairs with some girl, man, some random girl. "Oh, Leonardo, don't shoot your load, bro." We were not beloved here by the neighbors at all because we partied our asses off. And it was like there were people in and out all night. It was like a revolving door. But yeah, I actually feel pretty good. And maybe because, this isn't the place where Tobey came with his pitchfork, this was good times, man. This is when life was good. This is when the friendships were good. We were always being creative. We always wanted to work together. We were going to be a clan in terms of filmmaking. Don's Plum was a group of friends saying, let's all make a movie. Last Respects was a group of friends saying, let's make a movie. Before that, a movie was made. It was shot on video. It was called Connect 4. It was directed by Artie Robb. It was about dudes playing Connect 4. Oh man, it was terrible. And it stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, Kevin Connolly, and Scott Bloom. It was the first time where these guys started to take the chemistry that they had been building as friends and started putting it to work creatively. So it was, sort of the genesis of what would later become Don's Plum.
So let's jump into Last Respects.
Okay, sure.
So tell me about the origin of Don's Plum, starting with Last Respects.
Jeremy Sisto recommended me for a role in a short film called Last Respects, which was being co-directed by Artie Robb with his friend Artie Glacken. Last Respects and Don's Plum were totally different stories. Last Respects is all about a group of kids who steal the dead body of their mentor and they take it back to a hotel where they used to hang out and they pay their last respects and they bury it there. It's a comedy. I overheard Leo talking to RD and he just was not happy with the script, said that he could not act in the movie as it was written. I fancied myself a writer all these years and so I felt like I could help. We worked for months, maybe even close to a year, rewriting and reshaping that movie. Shortly after that, we had finally arrived at a draft that we felt was ready to go, and we did another table read at Leonardo DiCaprio's. He hated it before it began. He just really made a mockery of the writing. It was infuriating, actually. To mock it in the room with the writers at the table, to me, is pretty insensitive.
I recall him asking why, what was it about the script that I didn't like, and I think I said, it just doesn't seem believable to me. I wasn't satisfied with it. I didn't think it was very good.
And the movie died on the spot, and that's when David Stotman was able to get Leo alone for a minute, and he pitched his concept, the Saturday Night Club, which later became Don's Plum.
David Stutman was my friend at the time, and actually I'd left home at 17 and stayed with him for a while. So we were close. We enjoyed the same things.
This job would be great if it wasn't for the f***ing customers.
Clerks had come out not that long ago, and Dave and I had actually gone to see Clerks for the purpose of saying, yeah, we could do something like this. And we started writing this script called Saturday Night Club, and it was about this group of friends who met at a diner. And this is something that we actually used to do, was go to Denny's late at night and sit in the booth and order some chicken fingers and smoke and chat. So we started writing a script about that. But by writing it, it was mostly Dave typing and me dictating it to him. Somewhere else in the world, DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, Artie Robb, Dale Wheatley, and those guys were working on a film called Last Respects.
Oh, this is it. Oh, this is Leo's house, bro. Yeah, that's his house, man. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I recognized it. We did the read-through right here at a table. It was a disaster. Leo said no to Last Respects. Then David Stutman goes into Leo's bedroom, and RD comes to me, and he's like, Stutman's pitching his Saturday Night Club to Leo.
Do you recall anything that David Stutman said after the Last Respects script had been read through at your home on Ambrose?
I believe that he said that if we weren't satisfied with Last Respects, that there was another idea for a short.
I wasn't there, but my understanding was that Dave said, hey, I've got this other project my friend and I are working on. He pitched the script as like sort of the skeleton, the framework, and you guys can do a lot of improv.
We could do an improvised thing with the actors. That's what I remember him saying.
And the actors can become their own writers, which is what every actor wants to hear.
What I remember was us being more excited about the new short film proposal.
The proposal by David Stutman.
Right.
Leo responded. He was the first to respond. Having that guy in your corner obviously means that the rest are probably going to follow, and that's exactly what happened.
One night, Stutman crawls in through my window at like 1 a.m. and told me that we're gonna make Saturday Night Club. I think I was a little bit pissed. I remember saying something at least to the effect of, why didn't you talk to me first? But all of a sudden we were making Saturday Night Club with DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire. We were still looking for a location, and then at one point, Stutman called me and he's like, we found the perfect location and the title of the film. I'm like, okay, what is it? He's like, it's this place called Don's Plum.
Once we found that diner, that was it, man. We changed the name from the Saturday Night Club to Don's Plum.
I was like, yeah, Don's Plum that's awesome. We decided that as opposed to fleshing out a script, we were basically gonna write it all down into scenes and then break it down into cards so that the actors could riff on the ideas and come up with their own dialogue.
We were able to convince them to just go ahead and go 100% improvised. So no, there was no script. But when this opportunity came that we could kind of do something nobody's really doing right now in Hollywood, man, everybody pounced on it with an incredible amount of excitement. You have to remember, man, this is the 90s, right? Like, this is the greatest independent scene maybe ever. And there was this excitement in Hollywood around experimentation and creativity. It was awesome, and it was everywhere. Like, I mean, everybody was trying to be cutting edge, to be avant-garde. It was just beautiful. We had a window to work with Leo, just before Marvin's Room, where he was gonna be in town and we can get him in front of a camera to shoot. If that window closed, I don't think it would have ever opened again. After Leo committed to shooting for 2 days, we had to raise the money because you can't make a movie like Don's Plum without some cash.
I do remember Stutman coming. We had talked to my father about the money. My father helped create the Happy Meal as it is today, and he created the Monopoly game. So he had done very well for himself. So Stutman enters into agreement with me and my father, and I believe it was like $20,000, $25,000 at that point, and then it jumped to $40,000 for no apparent reason. And I think actually we added more money after that. I think that it ended up being like $70,000.
David Stutman was the producer in charge of the production book, so he controlled all the contracts. Leo's agents, managers, and lawyers had no idea that Don's Plum had been made, and I believe that was true for pretty much all the other actors of note.
There was no contract. I agree to appear in this and make this sum and get this on the back end. Of course, Stutman was like, it's gonna be fine, we're all friends, we have a handshake deal, and handshakes are just as good as contracts.
We dropped the ball on the contract side of the game. We believed that we were making a film with our friends and foolishly didn't pay attention to the paperwork.
David Stutman was somebody who you would often discover that he didn't quite know what he was doing, but he never wanted to admit that. So he was one of those people who wouldn't ask for help when he needed it.
Don's Plum was on the road to failing because, of our inexperience and our lack of prep.
We wanted to bring in another producer because this was just like another up. We got John Schindler on board, who was the line producer, who was one of the few people who knew their I don't think there would be a Don's Plum if it wasn't for Schindler.
Well, from the very beginning, everybody knew that.
Everybody knew what?
That I was the most experienced filmmaker in the group and the one who could get it done. I hired the crew, I set up the shoot dates, and organized how it would be shot.
So this used to be Don's Plum. That's the same frame. It's the same sign. It's Don's Plum, the Plum Club. When you watch the movie, Leo comes in, looks through the fish tank, taps on it, and then walks over to the booth, which has to be right here.
What's up, guys? What's up, bro?
What's going on, bro? Who are these girls, bro?
This is Sarah.
Other than Leo and Tobey, the main actors in Don's Plum were Kevin Connolly, Scott Bloom, Jenny Lewis, Amber Benson, Marissa Ribisi, who is Giovanni Ribisi's sister, and Meadow Sisto, who is Jeremy Sisto's sister.
So then we set up 3 cameras so that we could get every angle, but none of the cameras were visible from the other cameras. So then when we rolled on a scene, every scene was usable and any section of any scene was usable.
Of course, it's not Titanic, you know, it's not a big, giant, $200 million stupid production. But for us, it was just beyond our dreams, you know? We just couldn't believe it. With RD, I was like, I want you to concentrate, because he was like pretty wide-eyed, you know? It was like, this was really intense, because, you know, we were both our pants.
I think with RD, he obviously needed some help with directing, because it ended up, as I recall, Dale, maybe John Schindler, and him doing a lot of the directing, kind of co-directing.
So my role on Don's Plum was writer, producer, director. And that was also Artie Rob's role. And we just kind of split the credits. So he took writer, director, and I took writer, producer.
I'm not saying that RD didn't have input, and you know, but had it just been RD like directing it, it wouldn't have come out the way it was. It may not have come out at all. In reality, John Schindler directed Don's Plum.
Well, I directed the director, kind of. And so the first day of shooting was to accommodate Leo. Leo was incredibly gracious enough to give us his time, and he is a real pro, so you know, he showed up incredibly professionally.
Big fan for y'all. You're a whore. Cool, dude. I can act. Y'all in the school play?
I liken it to being a teenager and like driving in a car. When there's no one in it, you tend to drive the speed limit, but when your friends are in the car, you show off and you drive like a dick.
Yeah, f***er, dude.
And so that's more of what happened at the table. It's them having fun and personifying one aspect of themselves.
Gay, bro. Everyone's gay, and everyone uses drugs. Did we discuss this in the Never Game? Because we have 3 homosexuals here.
But that is not necessarily who they are. But of course, it is so free-flowing and it seems so natural that an audience is going to look at that, you know, look at DiCaprio, look at Maguire and say, oh, that's who they are.
Out of here. Hello? Jesus Christ, you need to send her back to sea, bro. That chick is fat.
What gives you the right to say that
Bro,
about
she was
anybody?
like a little tank walking by, bro.
God, you guys are such dicks.
Just a few days prior to that, Leo had wanted us to fire Amber Benson. And he did so because he just didn't think that she was strong enough an actor. Instead, we decided to write our way out of the problem, and so we created the fight between Leo and Amber pretty much on the set.
How about I take my shoe and shove it in your mouth, okay? How's that?
Leo wanted her gone, and we said, well, the only way you're going to get her gone is by Derek, who we had written to be the greatest on earth.
You squatty piece of
to, you know, berate her and just beat her verbally out of that seat and off the set. And she knew that that's where it was coming to.
Stop looking at me like that. I'll throw a bottle at your face, you goddamn whore.
So her getting upset at the table is real.
You guys are such
And her throwing the Birkenstock at their head is real. I mean, she was actually upset. She was actually storming out.
Get out of here, you slut, bitch! Whore.
We had written a completely different scene for myself and Ethan Suplee. We were supposed to actually stumble in drunk, homeless, and sing for money. That was it.
But your pubes are showing.
Sorry.
But the scene was blown, in my opinion, and I stunk.
I want to get drunk!
If you watch the film, you'll see I just kind of get knocked off the scene, and I at least played it well. I could fall down pretty good. Leo comes up to me, and I'm sitting in one of the booths at Don's Plum, and I'm just devastated, and I'm shirtless still from the scene. I stink something horrible. And Leo just pulls up into the bench, and he looks at me, and he goes, "You weren't that bad, bro." But it was really caring and loving, even though it was almost an insult. You know what I mean? Like, and then he told me, "Come on, man, we need you back on the set." And he got me off the bench. It was just something that I remember so beautifully.
Dave was usually trying to pick up on people or something. He was flirting. He was like hanging out and loving the attention, but he did some craft service.
Dave Stutman?
Yeah.
The producer was doing craft service.
Yeah, that's kind of the only skill he had.
And the production went well. Everyone was great. Leo was wonderful, Tobey. It was a fun shoot, actually.
That's the street they run down at the end of the movie, into the rising sun. So we finished shooting that, and then Leo's car pulls up here into this lot. Leo was faced this way. The car was here. We're outside by Leo's car, and I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude. And hurts, man. So I'm just overwhelmed. I just can't believe what he has done for us. And I'm expressing that, and I'm emoting that. And I give him this really big hug, and he goes, yeah, and he thanks us again, and then he just says, just make me look good. God damn it, you know? He's like, just make me look good. And this big weight of responsibility suddenly landed on my shoulders. I had to make them look good, you know? And that was my goal. Like, that became my only goal. And then he got in the car and he drove away.
I'd never had any intention of doing a feature film. The agreement had always been that this was a short film. I would never go in for one night and improvise with my friends and make a feature film. There's no way I would ever do that.